automation testing without prior knowledge of programming languages. So you don't have to know anything about Selenium framework for automation testing, and you don't have to know any of the programming languages. So everything is just as basic as it can be on Automation HQ. All right, let's start. So first, I would like to discuss the workflow for Automation HQ. First, we have the initialization and the configuration, which includes the projects and users and the settings module. I will be discussing each and every of the modules later in the presentation. And after the initialization and the configuration, we have the test development itself, which contains the element library and the test scripts. After the test development, we have the test execution, which contains the test suites and the test bots. And then after the execution, we will have the test results, which will be contained in our analytics module. Then after we have the test results, we can go ahead and verify those uh, test execution results and maintain the test scripts and the elements that we have been using on our automation, and then just repeat the process of developing those test scripts and then executing it and then uh, getting the test results. So basically, this is the workflow for Automation HU. So now let's discuss each and every one of the module. So first, I'll be talking about the projects and users. So for the projects and users, basically the project is what you start uh, as a entity for Automation HQ. So in the projects, you can go ahead and name anything you want as your project. You can create your project, and you can also edit your project within the project module. And then for under the project module, we have the users. So the users are you can invite different users within your projects, and then you can also assign those users in different roles. So let's say, for example, you want a user just to create the test scripts, and you want a user just to uh, view the test results, or a user to manage all of the projects and users within that projects or the organization as well. So basically managing the users within that project. Then after that, we have the settings. So within the settings, we have the global parameters of the project. So for the global parameters here, you can set the global parameters such as the browsers on which we would execute the test scripts, or which uh, environment we are going to execute it from. We can also set the uh, timeouts for the execution itself. And we can also configure the screenshot configurations. So if we want the test script automation to take a screenshot on every failed execution or failed step, or take a screenshot on each and every step of the execution. And then the environment is basically uh, the website itself that we are going to perform the automation on. So under the environments, we can manage the environment. So add, edit, and create or delete those environments as well. Then after we have initialized and configured our project, we can go ahead for the test development. So first, I'm going to talk about the elements library. So the elements library uh, would be containing the applications uh, on which you want to perform the execution on, or the test automation on. So for example, the application, let's say you have a website, you would create an application to contain the elements within that website. So under the application, you can go ahead and manage those applications. So you can create, add, delete, or edit those applications. Then under application, we have the pages. So from the pages here, for example, you have a website, and then you have the login page, you have the registration page, you have the forgot password page. So under those are the pages, and you can go ahead and categorize those elements as well. So under the pages, you can add, edit, and delete those pages as well. Then within the pages, we will have the locators or the elements. So the elements basically are the elements within those pages. So for example, the login page, we have the username text box, and then we have the password text box, and then the login button. So all of those will be configured in the locators, and we will manage the locators under the pages as well. So after we have created those elements, we can go ahead and start creating our test scripts. So under the test scripts, we have the epics. So the epics basically are just the categorization for your test script. So let's say, for example, you have a smoke testing, and then on the other hand, you have the regression testing. So you can create two epics, one for smoke testing and then one for regression testing. So under epics, you can manage those epics as well. So add, create, delete, or edit those epics. And then after creating those epics, we will have the stories. So the stories are basically the collection of the test cases that we are given as a manual testers. So it would contain, so for example, we have a test case that, let's say, login module. So to verify all of the functionalities of the uh, login module. So it would be a story. And let's say we have a registration module. So it will also fall under the stories. All of the test cases within that registration module will fall under the stories. So within that story, we can go ahead and manage those stories as well. So we can add, edit, and delete those stories. And then for the exciting part, after the stories, we have the test scripts. So the test scripts are basically the conversion from the test cases into automation scripts or test scripts. So we would manage those test scripts within here, and we would set the steps, the test steps, and configure those steps on which the automation execution would perform. And then we can also manage the data sets within those test scripts if you wanted to do a data-driven testing as well. And finally, we have the run the test scripts and execution of those test scripts, so you can see uh, how the configured test steps you have created would perform. So you can run the test scripts locally on your machines. Then after the test development, we have the execution. So we have first I'll discuss about the test suites. So basically the test suites are just the collection of the test scripts. So let's say for example you have created 10 test scripts. Five of those are pertaining for, let's say, login module, and then five of those are pertaining to registration module. So you can create two test suites uh, and put those corresponding test scripts within that test suite. So you would have, in this example, you would have two test suites, one for login and one for registration, and each of those contains the specific test scripts that would be for performed for that modules. And after that, we have the test bots. So the test bots are basically the bots that would execute the test suites that we are going to assign it to. So in our example, we have two test suites, the login test suite and the registration test suite. So we could assign both of those in our test bots, and it would execute those test suites. So we can also create uh, another test bot. So let's say, for example, you only want to execute the login module. So you can go ahead and just put the login test suites on that test bot and execute only the login module. And that goes as well for registration, or if you want to run both on and all of your test suites as well. So under the test bots, you can go ahead and manage those test bots. So you can create as many test bots as you want. You can edit those test bots and even delete those test bots as well. Then, as I've mentioned before, we can run those test bots, execute those uh, test scripts within those test bots. So we can execute it locally on our machine, or we can execute it in the cloud. So the cloud execution is a premium feature for Automation HQ Premium. Then we could also schedule those test bots, so we can have those test bots execute on a predetermined time for it to execute, and be the test results would be ready after that execution. So let's say, for example, you're going in uh, at 8 a.m. in the morning, so you can schedule those test bots to execute on the midnight. So by the time you get to work, you will already have the test results ready for verification. But the scheduled test bot is a premium features as well for Automation HQ Premium. Then within the test bot, you can view the execution results. So you can verify if the executions or the test scripts that were executed within that test bots are pass or fail, or you can verify if it ever fails. You can verify if what step did it fail, or then you can diagnose those test scripts as well. You can also view the execution video recording, but this is also a premium feature for Automation HQ Premium. This basically records the execution step that the Automation HQ would perform. So let's say, for example, uh, we you would clock in on your work for at 8 a.m. and you would execute the test bots. Let's say you schedule the test bot on the midnight, and after the execution, after you have received the test results, you can also view the video recording on what the execution or automation execution did exactly uh, as you would do manually. Then it also contains the link to the test scripts, so you can verify. After verifying the test results, you can go ahead and uh, go directly to the test script that you want to check on. So let's say the test script has failed. You can verify that specific test script and edit it immediately. Then finally, we have the analytics. So this would be the test results that would contain the latest execution results of the test bot. So for every test bot that you execute, it will generate uh, a different analytics for each one. So it will always contain the latest results for that execution. So we do have the link to the testbot execution itself, so you can verify the executed testbots as well from the analytics. And then we do have detailed results such as execution by the story, execution by the epics, but this is also a premium feature for AHQ automation. Then finally, we have the maintenance workflow. So for the maintenance workflow, so as we mentioned before, after you have done the test development and then executed that test scripts, and then you have received the test results, you can verify those execution and monitor the execution as well. And if you have found any defects or you want to update or edit those test scripts, you can go ahead and go back to test development and then execute it again and then get the test results again. So that will be a loop until you have perfected your test scripts. So you can verify the execution results up to the test step level. So you can actually see the very step that where the test script has failed. So you can check exactly what's the problem on the application you are trying to perform the testing on. So you can go ahead and update those elements library. So for example, the test case has been updated. So let's say from the website, they have added a new element or changed the element that you were using before. So you can go ahead and just edit that element and it won't affect the test script execution. So you can also do that for the test scripts as well. So let's say uh, the test case has been updated and a new step has been added, or a new uh, validation has been added. So you can go ahead and just squeeze in that new functionality in your test scripts, and you don't have to create it from scratch again. Right, so basically, that's the summary of the workflow for Automation HQ. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand. But if there are anything else, we can go ahead with the hands-on. So I can see some of the audience are uh, on their mobile phone. So if you want to follow me with the hands-on on Automation HQ, you can go ahead and uh, just follow on with your computer. But Automation HQ is not yet available for mobile. All right. So for the Automation HQ agent requirements, you do need to have a Java JDK version 11 on your computer. So to check on that, you can open your command prompt or your terminal and just input Java dash version. So I'll try it here. So just use Java dash version. So you can see that in my computer, I have the Java version of 11.0.2. So anything above within 11 Java version JDK 11 or above can be used as a for to fulfill the requirements for the Automation HQ agent. So if you don't have the Java version yet, I can go ahead and share you the link. Just a second. I'll share the link within the chat. So if you have clicked this link, it would download the JDK 11 as a zip file. Then let me show you. Oops, here, here. So it would download as a zip file. And after the download, you can go ahead and extract that, uh, the JDK folder. So for this example, let me delete the previous one and let me create a new one. Let's just say JDK, and we would extract that downloaded file here. Okay. So while this is copying, you can go ahead and uh, edit your environment, so you can use this Java version 11 on your computer. So to do that, you just need to navigate within the JDK folder and copy the path, and you need to go to the environment variable. So for the Windows, you just have to press the Windows key and just type environment variables. So it should look like this. Then after you have opened it, you can go ahead and click the environment variables. And then within the system variables, you can uh, you can click new and add the Java home, which should be capital Java underscore home, and then paste the uh, path on of the JDK 11 like this. So after you have pasted it, you can go ahead and click OK. And so for me, I already have the Java home here. And then after configuring the Java home, you need to go to the path. So I actually have this here, so you can have a reference even after the presentation. So here in the path, we just need to check if there are any Java related uh, path that you can see here. So for me, I have already deleted that. Instead, just the Java home that we'll be adding. So after you have deleted those Java related uh, paths, you can go ahead and click new and just enter the percent Java home percent and then backslash bin. Right. So for me, I already have the specific path, but for you, you just need to click OK. And after that, you should have that Java home bin here. So it would actually uh, point into the Java home over here. So for me, it's in my D setup here in Java. So it would actually point to the bin folder as well in the Java home/bin. All right. Then you can verify if the Java has been installed in your computer, so, by using the Java dash version. If you haven't, if it's not refreshing or showing that you have a Java version, you can double check the environment variables if you have entered the paths correctly. And then if it's still not showing, you need to do a restart on your computer to allow the Java uh, to be manageable. All right. So now that you have the Java version to 11 or higher, that would actually set our requirement for the AHQ agent. So now we would go ahead and uh, use the Automation HQ tool itself. All right. So to our website is the app.automationhq.ai. So I would also be pasting this on the chat. So once you have navigated here, if you do already have an account with us, you can go ahead and log in. But for those who don't have an account and want to follow along, you can go ahead and click the register button up here on the upper in the upper right of the screen, and then just fill in the corresponding field. So for the company, let's just say AHQ webinar, and then my first name is Jave Abehar, and I'm from Philippines, and then my phone number, and then my email address. Let's say HQ webinar. Then for the promo code, you can leave this as blank. And then after that, you can go ahead and agree to the terms and condition. You can also read our terms and condition and our privacy by clicking those links. And after filling up the form, you can uh, do the reCAPTCHA to verify you're not a robot, and then click agree and sign up. So you would have this notification. Thank you for registering your account with AHQ. Please check your email and activate your account. So I'm gonna go ahead and check my email and just wait for the email to be received for the confirmation message. So I have received the email. So you should have an email like this with a new registration and welcoming you to the Automation HQ. So after you have received the email, you can go ahead and confirm the account. If you should also check your spam folder if the email was sent to the spam. And if it was on the spam, you can, let's say this one, you can just mark the email as not a spam. So it would go directly back to the inbox, and uh, you would be able to click the confirm account button. All right. So let me go ahead and click the confirm account. It will redirect you to the set password page of AHQ. So you can go ahead and put your password, then confirm your password. So after you have set your password, you can go ahead and click submit to finalize the registration for Automation HQ. So once you have confirmed your password or set your password, you will be logged into Automation HQ with our onboarding uh, module. So for this onboarding module, we need to add, the first step is we need to add the project. So let's just say I would use AHQ webinar for the project name, and then Jade. And then for the description, I will just use the same as the project name. And after creating the project, you can go ahead and click next. Then the next step is you would invite the users that you want to be in your project. So Just a quick explanation on each of the roles. So here we have the site admin, which is has the all the functionalities available to them of the AHQ. And then we have the testers, which can create the test scripts, test suites, and test bots for execution. And then we have the project admin, who has access to projects and users only, and to invite and assign users and disable or remove the users within that project. Then we have the QA manager, will have an access to the specific project that you will assign him to. And then we have the QA director, which has the uh, access to all of the projects within your organization. Right, so for now, we can go ahead and skip the inviting of the user. So I'm going to go ahead and skip. Then for the next one, we need to download the AHQ agent. So we need to run the Automation HQ agent for us to execute those test scripts and even the test bots locally in our machine. So for this one, I would suggest you go ahead and download whichever operating system you are using. No. So it would download the AHQ local agent wizard. And from that, after it's finished downloading, we can go ahead and install it. So you just need to follow the instruction of the wizard, and then it would actually download the jar files necessary for it to work. And since we already have the Java JDK version to 11, it should be there should be no problem on executing the version, the Automation HQ agent. So what it would look like after you have executed it or installed it to your computer is it would look like this. So this is the Automation HQ agent, which is needed to execute the test script and execute the test bot as well on our local machine. So we will be coming back with this one later once we try to execute the our test scripts. So for this one, I will just click next, and then the last page is the AHQ overview. So you can also view this video on our YouTube channel. So just search Automation HQ and you can view various tutorials and uh, videos regarding Automation HQ. But for now, we are going to go to the dashboard and finish up the onboarding. Okay, now once you have logged into Automation HQ, if you can remember our workflow, so we just need to do the projects and users. So we have already created the project and then set our users, which is for in this case just me. And then now we need to do the setting. So for us to do the setting, we need to verify which website we need to uh, perform the execution on. So I will go straight to the test case example, this one. All right. Okay, so for this test case example, we will be using the website AutomationHQ.ai demo site 1. So I'll be pasting this as well on the chat. So let's just talk about the test case itself. So the test case is to verify the search functionality. So we have the test case ID, and then we have the test case name, which is verify the visibility of search form elements. And we have the test steps here as well. It says go to website and then verify the visibility of the different elements, which we would see later on. And the expected result should be that the elements are visible. So let's go ahead and go to this website. So I'll paste it on the chat first. There we go. And then we can go straight to the website. So this would be the demo website that we are going to use. So uh, in the test case, it says we need to verify the visibility of the search form elements. So we need to verify the various elements that are listed on the test step. So we need to identify the elements that we need to we are going to use on our test script. So in this case, we have the city, section, property type, price from, price to, square to, bedrooms, and the find button. So if we go back to our uh, demo site, we have the city drop down, the section drop down, the property type drop down, then the price from and to text box, and the square from and to text box, and then the bedrooms drop down, and finally the find button. So we are going to verify each and every one of those elements. But to verify those, we first need to configure those in our elements library. So if you can remember again with our workflow, uh, we're going to put it on our elements library. But first, we need to set our settings, our configuration on which uh, website or environment we are going to execute it on. Right. So let me just close this too. All right. So you can go ahead and go to settings. I clicked the wrong one. Okay, settings. So here in the global parameters, you can go ahead and uh, select which execution grid you want. So for this one, this is a free account. So we only get to use the local execution and then the environment. So as of now, we don't have any environment. We will be adding it later. Then we have the testing type. If it's for now, it is set to web. And then which browser are we going to execute on? For the free account, it's only defaulted to Chrome, but we do also execute on different browsers like Safari, Firefox, and Edge. Then you can set the timeouts for the execution later. So once you have created the test step, I would go back to the timeouts as well. Then we have the various screenshot configurations. So we have the screenshot after each step. This is only available for the AHQ Premium. And we have the screenshot on error, the screenshot on finish, and close the browser after each execution. So for this one, I will be just using the default, which is taking a screenshot on error and then closing the browser after each execution. So now we are going to add our elements. So we can go ahead and go straight to the elements tab and add sorry, the environments tab and then add our environments. So for this one, we just need to put the name of the environment or the website that we're going to perform the automation on and the URL of that website. So for this one, let's just say demo site. I'm just going to copy their URL and save. So now we have the environment on which we would perform the automation on. We can go ahead and select the environment in the global parameters. So it would be set to this one and click save. So you can also go ahead and add different environments. So for example, uh, you have a website under development and a website on production. So you can go ahead and uh, input and configure those environment within the environments tab. And you can just select the environment on which you want the execution to be performed on. But for this one, we are finished with the initial settings. We can now go ahead with the test development itself. All right. So if we go back with our workflow, we have the test development, which contains the elements library and the test scripts. So for us to create a test scripts, we need to configure our elements first. So uh, we need to set those elements within our elements library and then use that to create our test scripts. So for this one, you can go ahead and go to test development and then elements library, and we can go ahead and add our application. So the application should pertain to the website that we are trying to execute on. So for this one, I'll just use demo site. So basically the same as our environment and the URL. So we can click the created application and we can now add a page on our application. So for this page, this specific page is the home page of the website. So we will be using this as the home page. So I will just put it as home page, and the other one is the home page as well. For the description, I'll just use the same as the name, and we can go ahead and click save. So now we have the home page, and now we need to identify the elements and configure those elements within that page. So for under the page one, we have the elements. So we can go ahead and add the elements and then just verify the elements that you would need on your test script. So in this example, we have the city dropdown. To get those elements and configure those elements, you can go ahead and right click on that element and click inspect. It would open up the developer options and you would see the elements of the page itself. So for this one, it is highlighted here since we uh, selected the city dropdown. So this would be it, the select class which has the ID of city. So for this example, I would be showing you the XPath locators. So to configure our locators. So for this one, you can go ahead and right click uh, the element, and then you can just go to copy and then copy the XPath, right? Then we can go back to our elements and we can put the name, which is the city dropdown. And then with what type of element is this? It should be a dropdown. And then by what locator. So you can go ahead and choose whichever locator you want to use. But for this example, we'll be using the XPath and just paste the value of the XPath in here. So another example for this one, let's try it for the section. So just right click and inspect. For this one, I will be using the ID of the element. So for this example, the section dropdown, the ID is AP type. So we can use that AP type and copy that ID and then let's say section dropdown and then by ID and we can just paste the ID itself. So I'm gonna do this for each and every one of the elements that we need to use. So again, add element and then property type, inspect. So just for the quickness of it, I'll just copy the XPath itself. Also, you need to verify the element if the element is actually pertaining to that specific uh, element that you want to verify or to configure. So for this one, we have the property type, which is the object type. You can go ahead and press the Control F to check and then paste the whatever locator you wish to use and just verify if it's one of one. So if it's saying one of two or three or any other number, you should choose another locator to use for that element. But for this one, since the element has an ID, it should be unique and it's the only element that has that type of ID. All right, so for this one, let's just go ahead and this is the property type dropdown. Right, for the XPath and it's a drop down as well. So I'll do the rest quickly. So we have the price square and the bedroom. So I have four here. So let's just as price from text box, price to text box, square from text box, square to text box. And all of these elements are text boxes. And we're just gonna use the XPath on all of them. All right, so let's get the XPath of the elements, copy XPath, and just paste this, paste the value. And the next one, copy XPath. Right. Then for the square one, it should be these two elements. So we need to copy XPath Then the square to copy XPath again. And for the last one, we need to verify the bedrooms drop down and the find button as well. So just two more elements. So it's a drop down bedrooms. So we're gonna use the XPath again. Inspect, copy the XPath. And the last one is a button. So let's just say find button. We're gonna use the XPath again since it's faster. So it should be this one. So copy XPath. So as you can see here, it should be a button, but in the elements you can see it is actually a link. So if it's a button, it should say button here. But since it's letter A, it pertains to a link. So we need to change the button to a hyperlink and then paste the value. So we can, after we have identified all of the elements that we are going to use for our test script, we can go ahead and save it. So it should show that the home page has 9 locators here. Then after we have identified the elements, we can go ahead and create the test scripts. So this would be the exciting part now. So within the test development, under the test development and the test scripts tab, navigation tab, we have the test script page. So here you can go ahead and add the epic. So for this epic, let's just say we're going to demo site. Let's say this is a sanity uh, testing. So for the summary, I'll just do demo site sanity testing for webinar. All right. So after creating the epic, we can go ahead and click it and we can add the story within that epic. So for the story, I will be using the verify search functionality itself, the story name. Now we have the verify search functionality under the demo site sanity testing. And within that story, we would be adding our test script. All right, so this is the test script modal where we would create the test script and configure the test steps on which we need to satisfy the expected results, which is to verify if the elements, all of the elements are visible. So for this one, the name would be verify visibility of search form elements. And then the status, you can go ahead and just put it on in progress for now. And once we have verified that uh, this certain test script is ready, we can switch the status to ready or to be repaired or for the different status that you have here. Then for the application, we're gonna select the demo site, which is the application that we created on our elements library. Then for the description, I'm just gonna use the same, is to verify the visibility of the elements. And then I'm just gonna paste the whole test steps within just for reference. Yeah. Then lastly, we have the label. So the labels can be anything, but for this one, I wanted to use the uh, code, the test case ID as the element, the label. So whenever we execute it on test scripts, we can verify, we can sort it by label as well. All right. So the next step we would need to do is to set our test steps that the automation would take uh, for this test script. So uh, as you can see here, we do have the predefined step, and all you have to do is drag and drop those specific steps that we need. So firstly, the first step is go to the website, which is our environment. So we already have the open. So we have the predefined step, open web browser and go to page text. So the page, you can just go ahead and drag and drop that on the test step area. So we have open web browser and go to page text. So this specific text, we can go ahead and either enter the URL since we're going to that specific page, or for example, let's say you want to go to the Facebook login page. You can go ahead and add it like this. But for this one, we'll be using the demo site. But we can also use the environments that we have set up in our settings page. So to use that, we need to type in config that, and then just select the base URL. So the base URL actually pertains to the environment that we have set in our settings page. So if you can remember, we have set the demo site, which contains the URL of the demo site that we are trying to perform the automation on. So with by using the config.base URL, even if you change the environment, it would automatically change the website that the test script would be performed on. So let's say uh, you have an environment for development. So let's say the dev environment. So even if you change from dev environment to prod environment, it will still execute on whichever environment you have set it by using the config.base URL. All right. Then after opening the browser, so it should open in this page. We can go ahead and verify each and every one of the uh, elements. So for this, we have a predefined step, which is the verify the visibility, verify visibility of the UI locators. So the UI locators would pertain to the elements that we have configured within our application, which is the demo site over here. So we can just go ahead and select which application or elements we are going to perform the step, which is the verify visibility. So for this one, we will verify the visibility of the city dropdown. Then we're gonna verify the section dropdown. Then the property dropdown, and then the price from, price to. You can also go ahead and just prepare all of the test step beforehand. And then last one. So it should be the square from, square to, the bedrooms drop down, and the find button. All right. So this is the test script that we are looking at right now. So it would if we follow the step, it would open the browser and go to the base URL which we have set in our settings, and then it would verify the visibility of the city dropdown and verify the visibility of the other elements that we are trying to verify from. So we can go ahead and save this specific test script. And once you have uh, created that test script, you can check it, run the test script to verify its functionality. But for this one, we haven't had set the automation agent yet. So this is a reminder that you need the AHQ local agent to perform the execution. So for this one, after you have downloaded the agent installer and after you have installed it and downloaded all of the jars necessary for the execution. But for me, I already have the local agent here. So now we are just going to use the test script agent. So we're going to start the test script agent and just wait for it to to uh, s- finish initializing. So we can also go ahead and start the testbot agent as well, since this would be uh, longer than the test script agent. So let's just wait for at least the test script agent to be ready. It shouldn't take more than a minute. Just a few more. Oops. So what the AHQ local agent is doing is it's initializing the Selenium framework that is working behind the scenes, and it would configure the drivers on which we are going to execute the test scripts from. So we need this to perform the execution. Right? While we are waiting, so is if any of you have any questions, you can go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll answer your questions there. All right, so we have the test script agent running already, and we just have to wait for the testbot agent later. Once we try to execute using the testbot. So now we have the test script agent already running. We can now go ahead and I'm just gonna refresh the page and then execute the test script itself that we created. So it's under the verify functionality and this one. So we can go ahead and run this test script. All right. So if you can remember the test step that we have created, it would be summarized down here. So open the browser and then verify the visibility of the different elements that we have configured. So we can go ahead and click run. So it would actually run on your local machine and it would open a uh, Chrome browser automatically. So I'm just waiting for the Chrome browser. So it's just opened. Now we can just sit back and watch the execution happen. But that is a bit fast since it's just verifying all of the elements. But you did catch a glimpse of the website that it opened the demo website and it verified each and every one of the elements as seen here. So all of this has a check. But if we did, let's say I'm going back to the elements library and then I'm just gonna add a dirty data. Let's just say it's a button and a dirty button, and let's say XPath, and then just whatever. So I'm gonna click save, and then I'm gonna edit that same test script, and let's say I'm gonna verify that faulty element. So visibility and the dirty button. So you can also go ahead and save and run directly from the test script modal. And with what if you have the automation agent open, if you have it running already, you it would open up the execution page. But if it's not, it would remind you to either download the agent again or uh, run the agent. So we can go ahead and click run. So it should fail on that step 11, which is the verifying the visibility of a dirty button, since it is not uh, a valid button. So as you can see here, it actually stopped. So this is a great uh, option to talk about the implicit and explicit weight. So each of the predefined step we have in Automation HQ has a built-in implicit and explicit weight. So at the moment, we have set the weight, the explicit weight to 10 seconds. So it actually waited 10 seconds before it resulted that the element is not visible. So you can see here the verify visibility of the faulty button on the home page has failed. It has failed to verify that locator. And you can also check the screenshot, since we have set in the settings that it should take a screenshot once it's if it failed. So we can open it. So it failed on this specific step. So as you can see, you can verify that specific step as well. But for this one, let's remove the faulty button on our test script. And then since we have executed this test script already and it's working fine and it satisfied our expected result, which is verifying the visibility of the elements, we can go ahead and set the status to ready and then click save. So now the test script should be ready. Right. From this, I do actually have another test case example. So for this one, let me show you the test case 2. So for this one, we need to verify the search property itself, the functionality of the search property. So the test steps are, so this would be a data-driven test. So go to website and then select Moscow in city dropdown, then select rent out a property in section dropdown, then select the various different datas and enter the different datas as well on those elements. And then we are going to click the find button and then verify if the search is successful, and then verify if it's redirected to the correct URL. So our expected result is the search should be successful and the URL is correct. So we'll do that now. So since we have already created and configured the elements, we can go ahead and start creating the test script itself. So for the name, I'll just use the verify search property. And then for the description, I'll just paste the test steps. And then the status is in progress. Then the application is demo site. And then I'll just use the test case ID as the label. And then we can create the test step itself. So we would start in opening the browser and going to that specific page. We're going to use the base URL again. And then the next step should be selecting the Moscow in city dropdown. So we do have a predefined step here, which would select the visible text from the UI locator. So this only works on drop-down elements. So it would select a visible text. So in here we have select a city, Moscow, New York, and Toronto. So we would select the Moscow. So for this, you can either input the text directly as Moscow, then select city dropdown, or you can also use the data-driven test, which is our data table down here. So let me show you. To use the data table for the data-driven test, just need to use data, then dot, and then the variable name that we want to use. So let's just say I want the variable name is city. So it would actually create a city column down here at the data table. And we can go ahead and just finish it up with the select visible text data.ct, which we will be using for the data driven test, and then from the drop down city drop down. So we can go ahead and add a row, and it would create an instance for that uh, execution. So for this one, we have the data city, which is Moscow. So we can save it. So as you can see here, both of these test steps are valid, but for this one, you can go ahead and add an additional execution. So let's say I want to select New York. Yeah, New York. So it would actually execute the test script twice since we have the city for Moscow and New York. And if we are going to use this step three, which is the data.city, it would on the first execution it would select the Moscow, and on the second execution it would select the New York. But for this example, let me just use the data-driven test, which is the data city itself, and just Moscow. And we would do that for the next step, which is select rent out a property in section dropdown. So I'll go ahead and copy this, then select visible text again from the dropdown and data.property and section dropdown. Oh, sorry, it should be section. So data.section. Yeah. So we can edit the row again and just paste the rent out a property. So I'll go ahead and then do that for the property drop down as well. Visible text, data dot property, property type drop down, and then edit the property. And the next step is to enter a text in our price text box. In this case, it's 30. So we do have a predefined step for that. So enter a text into the UI locator. So for this one, I'll run through everything. So we have four enter text step here. Enter. We have four enter text step. So I'll go ahead and just say 30, 50, and then 50 and 100. Then it's for the price from, then price to, then square from, and square to, square to. Yeah. Then for the next step, we need to select two in the bedrooms dropdown. So we're going back to the select visible text. So let's just say two and bedrooms dropdown. And finally, we need to click the find button. Click the find button. Find button. All right. So up until this point, we have the elements already created for us. But for the next step, we need to verify the listing and then verify the correct URL. Specifically, we need to check input another element just to satisfy the verify listing step. So for this one, I would go ahead and do the test case manually so we can see. So city is for Moscow, then rent out a property, and then apartment, and then 30 to 50, and the square to 50 to 100, and then two bedrooms, and then we would click the find button. So we would be redirected to the search page and it should have a listing of one. So with this one, I would take the element or the listing element if it have found something. So if it has found something, it should the element should be existing here. So which is this one, which is the one bedroom apartment near Prospect. So I'm gonna inspect that element and then just copy the URL, the XPath, I mean. So we can verify if it's one of one. So it's true. And then we're just going to save the current test script, but it's still in progress. And I'm going back to the elements library. And I would actually create another page, which is the search page, and then add the listing element. So let's just say listing result. So this should be just the other since it's not either a drop down or a hyperlink or a text box. So it's another, and then by XPath as well. So I'm going to save that search page, and then we are going back to the test script and then add that element in our test steps. Okay, so after clicking the find button, we have to verify the visibility of that element, which is the listing result. So we do have it here, listing result. And then finally, we need to verify if it's the correct element or correct URL. So for that, I'm going to uh, put a static wait for, let's just say, 3 seconds, and then verify the URL itself. Verify current URL contains path. So it would verify the this specific predefined step would verify the current URL of the website. So I'll be using if the URL contains a path of, let's say, slash search demo site or demo site slash search. So this way, this step would verify if it has been redirected to the correct URL. And we waited for 3 seconds just to let the page load, and then verify the URL. So let's try this one out. I'll just save and then execute. Wait, I need to refresh. So let me execute again. There we go. So as you can see again, we have the summary of the test steps, and we can go ahead and run. Okay, so it just opened up for me, and we can verify if it is a successful execution. So as you can see here, it actually failed on the fourth step, which is the select visible text property. So it will say unable to select the dropdown from the property dropdown. So this is actually caused by the website itself. So if we go back to the search page, as you can see here, if I select Moscow, it would actually load. Content is loading, as you can see there. So we need to at least add at least a 1 second delay on each of the step to let the page load correctly. Since when you do an automation testing or test script, it would once it sees the element, it just performs it very quickly in just milliseconds. So we need to purposefully add some static waits to wait for the page to load on each and every step, since whenever we input anything, it's actually loading and updating the listing down here, as you can see here. So let's just say one or four or more. See, it's actually updating the website. So if you have elements that are not reliant on loading, or let's say just a static element, let's say for example a uh, login page. So let's say a username and a password, and you have to click the login button for the page to perform any algorithms. So you don't have to add those uh, speci- uh, specific static weights. But for this example, we need to add at least 1 second of wait time before performing the next step. All right. So this way we can also see the execution more slowly, and we can follow it up. So I'll just be putting 1 second wait time for in each step. So it's actually done right here. So after selecting the bedrooms, wait 1 more second before clicking the find button. So let's try this one out again. Then run. Okay, it's just open up online. All right. So we did have a successful execution of the test scripts. So if we go back to the test case, so we have performed each and every one of the step. The search was successful since it has verified the visibility of the listing result. And then it is also the correct URL, in which case the URL contains the path demo site slash search. So we can go ahead and uh, set the status of the test script to ready since it's already fixed or it's already working and as intended. All right. So uh, af- after you have created the test scripts, we can go ahead and move on to the test suites, which will be the collection of the test scripts. So let me just plug my headset. Just a second.
Charging.
All right. Apologies for that. My headset was in low battery. All right. Now for the test suites, we can go ahead and add a new test suite. So for this one, I'll just be using the story name itself, which is the verify search functionality, since it would contain the test script that would verify the search functionality. As the description, I will just use the same as the name. And over here in the test suites, you can see all of the test cases that we have created and the test scripts that are inside that specific or the selected test suite. So for this one, we're just going to drag and drop the two test script that we have created, which would contain in the verify search functionality test suite, and click save. So if we go and refresh the page, we can see that the verify search functionality test suite already contains the two test scripts that we have created. So after creating the test suite, we can now go ahead for and start creating the test bots itself. So to do that, we can go to the test bots navigation, then add a test bot, and then just give the test bot a name. So let's just say sanity test, and then the description test bot for sanity test. So we can go ahead and click the sanity test. So over here, we can see the test results, but since we haven't executed the test bot yet, we need to configure the test bots. So here in the test bots details, we can see the various test suites that we have created. In this case, we have the verify search functionality test suite, which contains two test scripts. So we will just drag and drop it to be included in this test bot, and we can go ahead and click save. And we can go back to the test results and just make sure that the AHQ local agent or the testbot agent is already running, so you can execute it on your local machine. But for this one, it's actually a headless execution, so we won't be able to see the actual execution itself. So for this one, let's just name the testbot execution as sanity test execution 1. So here, for the test bot, you can also select on which environments you want to execute to, and then change the implicit timeout and explicit timeout of the execution, and also edit the screenshot configurations as well. But for this one, we'll be sticking with the default and hit execute. All right. So the job is unqueued. So as of this moment, it's actually enqueued still on your local machine. So I suggest you don't restart or shut down your machine while this is executing, since it's performing on the background. But to monitor this, you can go ahead and just refresh the page or just click the auto refresh every 30 seconds. So as we can see here, it's actually executing two total test scripts, and none have passed yet and none have failed yet. It's still processing. So let's just keep hitting refresh. And as you can see here, we already have a one passed, which is the verify search functionality. So even if it's still processing, you can go ahead and verify that specific execution. So we have the verify visibility of search form elements, which have already passed. So wait, let me just turn off the auto refresh. There, which has already passed, and the verify search property functionality itself is still executing. So from this, you can verify the execution itself or the test script itself, and you can see the execution uh, details. So here we can see which environment it executed on. We can see which browser, which is a Chrome headless. Then the label, which is the web execution. Then the timeout configurations and the screenshot configurations as well. And over down here, we can verify all of the execution steps that the automation took, and also the execution time for each and every one of the steps. So the total execution time was 21 seconds for this specific test script. And as you can see here, you can also verify the uh, information on that specific test script. So here, it was performed on this demo website. This is our data. And the test step was to open the web browser. So the timestamp it took for the whole or the whole test step, then the message of the execution. So it says here that the automation URL is open. So you can also verify the different test step from here. So an example is the verify visibility of the price from text box. So the message was verified successfully the visibility of locator price. All right. So if you do have the Automation HQ Premium, you can go ahead and uh, play the recorded execution of that specific test script. But from this, let's check if the other test script has successfully executed. All right, so it's actually finished. So we can verify the second test script, which is the verify search property. And over here, you can see the execution itself. So from opening the browser up until verifying the URL. So you can see here. And the total execution time for this test script is 31 seconds. All right. And the total execution for that those two test script was 1 minute and 23 seconds. So this is basically the uh, summary of the test bots of how to use the test bots execution. So if you want to execute, let's say I want to execute just uh, the search property. So you can edit the test suite and just, or let's a better idea is just, let's just say just execute second test script. Save. Then from the just execute, we just want to execute the one test script or the second test script, and we can go ahead and let's say sanity test or testing bot. So it's just the same as the one that we have created, but this time we do have the just execute the second test script, which contains just one test script, and we can also execute it as well. Let's say test execution. There we go. So the job isn't cute. So uh, so that's how you would create your test scripts and then put them in the test suites and then put those test suites into the test bots and then execute them. So once you have successfully executed a test bot, we can go ahead and verify the results as well in our analytics page. So the analytics just shows all of the test bot execution. So in this case, we have the latest execution, which is the sanity test execution, and we have two passed. And if it ever has a fail, it would show you in the donut chart. And we do have other detailed uh, execution results. For example, result history of the sanity test. So you can verify the execution of at least 5 previous execution of these test bots, so you can see the performance it takes. Then we also have the test suite result. We have the test result by labels. We have the test results by Epic and such. So at the premium feature, we have different detailed, more detailed uh, test results for you to view from. All right. So let's go back to the test bots and just verify the other one. So it already has successfully executed. So we can verify the analytics again and check the second test bot that we created. So it has a total of one test script and it has passed. Now, for the last lesson I would show you is the data-driven execution. So let's say verify search property. Since we already have the data execution here, so over here, if you can remember, wait, let me refresh the page. It's not loading properly on my end. There, there. Here, down here in the data table, if you can remember, we have set the city as Moscow, the section as rent out a property, then the property as apartment. So let's go ahead and add another row, but this time we would select New York. Okay, so it should be New dash York. And then for the section, we're gonna, let's say, sell. Then the property, let's say hotel. So this would be an example of a data-driven execution. So uh, let's execute this. It should execute twice. First with the Moscow rent out a property and apartment, and the second execution should be New York sell and hotel. So let's just execute this on a test script level. Let me just refresh the page and just double check if the test script is running. So the test script agent is running. Let's go ahead and run the test script using the data-driven testing. Just waiting for the Chrome to open. All right, the Chrome has opened. So the first execution should be the Moscow one. And verifying the listing if it's successful. And then the second one should be the New York one right after the execution of the first. So New York sell hotel and then the same with the prices. So for this one, it actually changed an element. I think it's by selecting the section cell. So for this one, the test script should actually fail. As you can see here, it wasn't able to enter the square from since there was no square from elements. So with this one, if you can remember our workflow, so this would be the maintenance part in which we would maintain the test scripts and verify which test steps are being faulty and just edit it from there. So from this one, what I would do is create the and hotel. Yeah, so it's by selecting the property to hotel that creates removes the square from and square to text boxes and replaced by search by description address. So what I would do with this is input uh, the new the new element and copy the XPath and then just edit the test script and then input that one here. But for this one, let me just delete Let me just show you the execution itself. Okay, so let me just delete the New York one. So we would go back to the correct test cases. Now going back to the testbot execution, or let's just say the analytics itself, you can go ahead and click the actual results. It would take you directly to the executions. So here we have the verify functionality, the test suite, and we have two passed, zero fail. So from this, we can verify each of the test script. So we have the visibility, verify the visibility of search form elements, which has passed, and we have this verify search property, which has also passed. So from this, we already have fulfilled the expected results for the test case one, which is the elements are visible, and then the test case two, which is the search has been successful and the URL is also correct. So from this on point forward, whenever we need to execute the scripts again, we just need to execute the test bots itself. So just execute the test bots again, and then wait for the results, and you will already have the test results for your manual testing or your testing. So for premium users, we also have the schedulers, but this is for the premium plan. So we can also schedule the execution of test bus, as I mentioned before, and you can use that as an to set a predefined time for the test bot to execute and just have the results whenever you need it. So there we go. So basically, that is the whole workflow process for AHQ. So if you do have any questions, you can ask away, raise your hand. But if there are none, I would pass it back to Sir Tajesh. Hello, Tajesh. I think you are on mute. There we go. Hello, Tajesh.
So I think he's on mute,
Yeah,
but I don't see any question on the line.
yeah.
And I think there is no question, then we have to close because it's night there. But I definitely like to thank everybody for joining. Thanks, Joe, for explaining all the details. And once you guys do the hands-on, and if you have any issues, there is a support button on the bottom side, bottom right side of the application. So you can click there and submit your ticket to the HQ support team, and somebody will get back to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So with this, we can close this today's session. Thank you very much for joining, and we'll see you later then.
All
Thanks.
right. Thank you.